switch back to what we were talking about before because we rectified that problem. And the question tonight is, can Britain trust Nigel Farage to deliver Brexit? We have with us the unpleasant blind guy, Dave Milner, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Milner, also known as Agador, is one of the most prolific orators and commentators in American history. He is definitely a conservative's conservative. And you can find himself at agador.freeshell.org, agador.freeshell.org. And you can listen to his stuff on radio, EDL radio, ladies and gentlemen, on Sundays at 3:30 in the afternoon, and as well on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:30. And you can hear his stuff on SHR Media. My very, very good friend, Dave Milner. Dave, it's such an honor and privilege to have you on the air with us tonight.
Ken, it's always an honor to speak with you, sir. And, I've had you on my show, so there's always a little bit of reciprocity going on between us here. Yeah. It's a historic night, or a night on the verge of history, I would say. Mm-hmm. A lot going on, as you're going to be talking to Janis Hall a bit later about all of this stuff. But, yeah, this is a night on the verge of history, and it has to be a night that has to be making the left very nervous.
Exactly. Now, we're coming off, because let's give kudos to the Australian election over the weekend, where Australia elected a conservative, and the gentleman he was running against, the former prime minister, basically stated, Bill Shorten, that if you don't like what we've done, don't vote for us. Well, in the words of Ronald Reagan, well, they didn't.
Nothing like people that can take advice.
Exactly. The Australian people, congratulations to you. You are well on your way to great success. So they have a new prime minister who is a conservative. And now, Australia was a former domain of England. And, just like India, and these countries are going to the right. Scott Morrison being now the Prime Minister of Australia. You are bringing us news regarding one of the biggest elections in the history of England tomorrow, starting in the morning, 7 a.m. We're a few hours away from that. And the big story about that is Brexit. If you would, can you educate we Americans regarding tomorrow's election? Who are the players, and why is this so important?
I was going to say, yeah, you know what? This is why you and I are brothers from another mother, because that was going to be the first thing I was going to mention was why Americans should care about something going on over in England. Mm-hmm. I had a friend who I was speaking to about some of the more intense issues over there, and he didn't yell this at me. He screamed at me. He said, "Who cares? It's England." And my response to that is, well, you better care, because 5 minutes from now, that's going to be here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I've already seen this over my time, Ken, last 6 years, almost 6 years with the English Defense League radio show, watching what was going on over there. Migrating over here, you can see Omar and, the other Mohammedans in Congress saying the things they're saying, Mohammedans, and make them more and more a protected class here in the States. Mm-hmm. And so this stuff is coming. It's if it's not in your face now, it will be. So that's a big reason why Americans should care about this. We should also care, again, about the fact that a nation, a sovereign nation, wants to leave a super state because we ourselves are in the United Nations. And I look at it this way. If the UK can achieve Brexit, then that's a dress rehearsal, possibly, for the United States to leave the United Nations. Because, again, we're not getting anything out of the United Nations.
No.
The people of the United States of America are getting diddly out of being in the United Nations. It would be different if we were getting something from it, but we're not. All we're getting is regulation and people from the UN telling us we should do things this way and that way and open our borders and have more socialism and things of that nature. The actual working men and women who are in the United States of America who are listening to your show right now get nothing from the UN. So yeah, it should matter to them.
Exactly. And if I can interject here, because this is very important for a lot of people who are watching and listening along the corridors of technology. The United Nations would not exist without the United States of America. We fundamentally pay for our oppression. We have dictators from around the world, over 180 countries, that come together to vote that we are bad people and that we need to bow down to the rest of the world. And we pay for that. And it's having a president who went to NATO and said, no more. You're going to start paying for your own defense. We ain't doing it no more. And then having someone say, you know what, we need to pull ourselves out of the United Nations and out of the World Trade Organizations and out of NAFTA. Oh, my God. We need to get away from the world and we need to be the United States of America again. We have a great president. And in fact, Scott Morrison hopefully will be a great prime minister in Australia. But there's Theresa May. Now, Theresa May is the head of the Conservative Party in England. And, well, I don't know if you could tell the difference now between the Conservative Party in England and the Labour Party. It's like really no difference between the Tories and the Labour. It used to be a difference. The parliamentary leader, Hanahan, used to dispel the rumors that Margaret Thatcher period was over, but I think his day is coming to a sunset as well. The bottom line is that the conservative movement, the Tories over in England, have bent over and added Vaseline for illegal immigration, for Islamic movements, taking away the liberties and freedoms of individuals, making London virtually a concrete wall of depressive gun control, state population control. It's everything that a progressive would want you can find in Great Britain, including socialized medicine. But it has been ineffective. It hasn't worked. And we are hours away from Theresa May losing a major election. Now, if you would, explain to us what great gift Theresa May received in May of 2016.
Well, she's not on the verge of losing a great election for her party. She's on the verge of, one of the worst beatdowns in political history, probably in the West. It's going to be bad. However you feel about Nigel Farage's Brexit party, there are some polls now over there that say that it stands to defeat both the Conservative and Labour parties combined. And the Labour Party, by the way, Americans, is equivalent to our Democrats. The Conservatives are supposed to be equivalent to our Republicans. Now, 2016, this is when it all began. And it was simple. One choice was, I want to remain in the European Union, and the other choice was, I want to leave the European Union. I've seen the ballots.
Yeah.
There was nothing in there about I want to leave with conditions. There was nothing in there about I want to leave with different treaty stipulations. The ballot was very simple: remain or leave, and leave one. As a matter of fact, generation of Mohammedans, and the fact that Muslims have become a protected class now in the UK. It has reached a point where laws are enforced. Well, I'll put it in the way that Tim Burton, who used to be on EDL radio with us, and who has gone to prison for the cause, put it. Being a Muslim in the UK in a court of law is now not an aggravating circumstance. It is a mitigating circumstance. So a sentence that a non-Muslim might get of about 10 years or so, if it's a Muslim, that suddenly turns into a sentence of maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe. And we can speculate about the reasons for this. It could be because the Labour Party and, to a lesser extent, or even more of an extent now, the Conservative Party sees these Mohammedans as votes that they can capture for themselves. Or we can also talk about cheap foreign labor. We know about this very well here in the United States, folks. Mm-hmm. Anyone who talks about the immigration issue knows about that. But it has reached a point, which you know, which a lot of Americans know, where not only are the Mohammedans a protected class in the UK, they're actually beginning to enforce their own brands of Sharia law and abuse on the indigenous people of the UK, non-Muslims.
Exactly.
And we're talking about non-Muslims of every color, whether it be Christians, Jewish people, Sikhs. It really doesn't matter. We're talking about organized child sex, prostitution gangs here. We're talking about massive beatings. We're talking about acid attacks on the streets of the UK, to a point where the gangs over there, the Muslim gangs, are actually using social media to give themselves various points for each attack, not to mention knife attacks. And you have a situation where the left and the European Union want to continue this protectiveness of the Mohammedans. Another thing that people don't realize over here in the States is that Angela Merkel, who is how she is still, I don't know, the Prime Minister of Germany, has imported at least 1 million Mohammedans from the Middle East and Africa into Germany, who have no reason or no intention to assimilate. Now, there hasn't been 1 million Mohammedans imported into the UK, but it is the same mentality. They have no reason to assimilate because the government is not going to require them to. And they have no intention to assimilate because the government is not going to require them to. In fact, they're being encouraged to break the law whenever they feel like it against the kafir. Yeah, that's you and me.
Yep.
Or
infidels.
That's our Jewish. Yeah, that's our Jewish brothers and sisters. That's our, that's our Sikh brothers and sisters, and all of it, with impunity. In fact, we saw this happen over the weekend. An event that was being held, a campaign event that was being held by MEP candidate Tommy Robinson, was attacked by a group of a very conservative estimate would be 200 young Muslim men, some brought in from cities and from at least one city or town miles away from where the event occurred. And that wasn't the worst of it. The worst of it was they were escorted in by the police. And it is in that background, it is in that atmosphere, it is in the atmosphere where last summer there was an attack by Muslims on Jewish neighborhoods in the UK. The police went to respond. The Muslims charged the police and they ran away. The police ran away, not the Muslims, the police. EU, and they made this message loud and clear. This was after a nice long campaign from the left, calling them racist and haters and this and that and thisophobes and thatophobes if they voted to leave and all of this kind of thing. It didn't matter. They still voted to leave.
Exactly.
Now, Theresa May.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I should say this, Kim. David Cameron, who was the prime minister at the time, once the vote was taken and once it was clear that Leave had won, it immediately resigned as prime minister because he was a Remainer. He voted to remain, and he campaigned for it.
Exactly, and it was Cameron. It was Cameron and others who hours before the election said it was a waste of time to hold this election. There's no doggone way we're going to lose. We put a lot of money behind it. We put a lot of time behind it. We're not going to lose this. There's no doggone way we're leaving the European Union. A couple of days later, he's gone. Theresa May comes in amidst the scrabble because Nigel Farage says, I am not ready yet to lead on this matter. Theresa May takes charge. Theresa May is given a great gift. She can leave Brexit. She can Brexit away from the European Union. What the heck happened with Theresa May?
Well, I can't help at this point but think that she was like the John Boehner of her party. Americans over here remember John Boehner, or as many of us affectionately know him, John Boner, and completely betrayed the conservative cause. Theresa May promised over 100 times in public that the UK would leave the European Union, and yet she has come up with a terrible plan. She calls it a deal, but let's be real about it, Ken. It's a treaty. That's what it is. And the treaty that she wants states that Europe will still control the UK in a customs union, and that they will still make policing decisions when it comes over and above the UK Parliament, by the way, when it comes to things like immigration, which is, again, the core issue. It doesn't matter what people say. That is the core issue.
Yeah.
And the people of not even the Parliament, most of whom, by the way, Ken, are remoters, as the two of us call them, most of whom are Remainers, can't stand her deal. And I don't know, I've lost count of how many times she's presented this quote-unquote deal again.
Exactly. And even yesterday, she presented the same deal she started with. I don't know what the... she's on crack. I mean, what part of you not understand? We have to go to a break. We are talking tonight with Dave Milner. There's a lot of stuff that we got to talk about. Nigel Farage is one of those. Y'all need to hang in there, and this is why y'all should watch live. We're going to stop the taping here, but we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Nigel Farage and why Nigel is probably going to screw this up. You heard it here first on the Exceptional Conservative Show. He's going to screw this up. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, with more of the best. See, that's why you need to watch live on InItLive.tv or go to the TheExceptionalConservative.com. You can watch this stuff live. You can get all the information. And then you could be weeks, months ahead because the mainstream media doesn't do this. It doesn't do what we do. We'll be right back with more of the best right after these. Dave, love you, man. Hang in there.